Hi, and welcome back to our channel. We love it when we discover some lost history, at least to us, about our nation from the late 1800s. We recently went to visit our good friends Kim and Linda near Needles, California. We stopped at the Needles Museum and learned about the
Harvey Girls.
It was a radical idea in the 1880s to hire young women from the East and Midwest and send them west to work as waitresses in Fred Harvey Establishments along the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railroad. There was a strong need for fine dining establishments with trained staff along the new railroad, and Fred Harvey filled that need and changed our country. Over 100,000 women were sent west, and around 50,000 ended up staying out west to start their new lives. So, stay tuned.
Oh, the roads back east are mighty swell, the Chesapeake, Ohio, and the ASL. But I make my run and I make my pay on the Atchison, Topeka, and the Santa Fe.
The Atchison, Topeka, and the Santa Fe must be fair.
Building across the street was a Harvey house, and it was built in 1908. The original Harvey house burned down. It was wood.
Oh, okay.
That was unfortunate, but the city of Barstow lost 3 wooden Harvey houses before they built the current one, which is brick and mortar. Yeah, the only women out west at that time, and there were very, very few of them, were probably school teachers or nurses or some kind of medical professional. The rest of them were referred to as soiled doves. They were women of low moral character, rented by the hour, if you want to go down the road that far.
Gotcha.
When Harvey started to recruit them from the Midwest and the East, nobody thought that they would come, that single women would come this far west alone. They were wrong. About 100,000 of them came west between 1890 and the beginning of World War II. About 50,000 of them stayed and established homes in these little frontier towns that were populated with saloons and brothels. Now you have families and you have schools and churches and stuff like that, and turned the little frontier towns into hometowns. One end of the building was demolished in 1961 to make room for a parking lot. Joni Mitchell wasn't a thing back then. But there were hotel rooms, and then upstairs on the west end was where the girls stayed. And they were housed 2 to a room, and there were no facilities in the rooms. No toilets, no sinks, no anything like that. A hotel restaurant that size would probably have about 2 dozen Harvey Girls. So shift change must have been a nightmare because all the facilities were down at the end of the hall. Fine dining, this is the main dining room. You're looking at crystal, silver, and linen. Food that was prepared by chefs, some of whom were recruited out of Europe, served by the beautiful Harvey Girls, which weren't Fred's idea. Fred would make unannounced inspection tours of his facilities all up and down the Santa Fe Railroad. He stopped into Raton, New Mexico, expecting to see his wait staff, his male waiters, and there were young girls serving food. So he asked the manager of the Raton lunchroom what happened. And the manager said, I came to work last week. All of my waiters were drunk. They'd been in a fight, and 2 of them had been stabbed. So I let them go, and I hired the very few women that I could find here in Raton. At that time, there was a saying that there were no ladies west of Dodge City and no women west of Albuquerque. So even though Fred really liked the idea of the ladies serving food, where's he going to get them? So he advertised in East Coast and Midwest newspapers, single women, attractive, 18 to 35, intelligent, and highly moral. He did not want suspicious women or the reputation of suspicious women preceding his entry into these little frontier towns. He wanted them to be pure and to be seen as pure. That's why they're dressed almost like nuns.
If you walked in with a lot of makeup and painted fingernails, chewing gum, that was a pet phobia of hers, you might just as well forget it, because you just didn't do those things. They expect you to be a lady, and you better act like one or you were in trouble. When I was interviewed in Kansas City, she interviewed 9 girls that day, but she tired 2.
Fred eventually went to work for the Chicago, Burlington, Quincy Railroad, the CB&Q. He was a freight agent, and because he had to travel up and down the railroad, they didn't have dining cars at that time. So the trains would stop at regular intervals to feed their passengers. The food was horrible. They talked about rancid bacon, hard beans, biscuits that they called sinkers, coffee that was made once a week, and served in the filthiest of conditions by rude waiters. And Fred thought, I can do better than this. So he went to the leadership of the CB&Q and said, I'd like to build nice eating houses along your railroad. And they said, we're not interested. But down the street, there's a startup railroad called the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe. Try them. They loved the idea. They said, oh yes. They were just starting to develop their plan to build into the Southwest, all the way to the coast. And they were so successful, part of their advertising strategy, once they got going, was Meals by Fred Harvey. As they built west, he built right along with them. At the height of the company, he had 100 different establishments, about 25 of these grand hotels, lunchrooms, fine dining rooms, even down to just newsstands, but about 100. When the dining cars became a thing, he had contracts to operate 30 dining cars. So he was a busy guy. The bulk of this was developed after he had passed. But everybody that was still working said, I work for Fred Harvey. In 1951, a house manager was serving a steak to a customer, and he said, personally selected by Fred Harvey. The guy had been dead for 50 years. But they always said, I work for Fred Harvey.
I got chosen the first day I went in to be interviewed. So he said, we could sure use you. We need you today, but I don't know where you could handle it or not. And I said, I can. I'm a farm girl, was born on the farm, and I've handled a lot of heavy things. I didn't have to talk too long till he says, you're hired, go get a trial uniform on. So it was my first time to try on the black and white. They said, Opal, get down on the end because you're a little bit shorter. They put all the taller girls back in the back. It's me right here on the end here. I felt like I had graduated from the farm to a small city. And it was more fun. Oh yeah, more fun being a Harvey girl.
But all of these were joint ventures between the Harvey Company and the Santa Fe Railroad. Harvey had the property and the financial wherewithal to build these things. And Fred said that he would provide the equipment, and staff it, and supply the food. This was the main dining room, obviously. It's been remodeled. The floor I had a guy who was a mason, and he said, "Do you know how they did this?" And I said, "Obviously not." Those are individual tiles, and you sprinkle a little Portland powder on the concrete, get it wet with a bucket of water and a paintbrush, set those. Then after that sets up, brush some more of the powder into the joints, a little bit of water, and away you go. All of the Harvey houses have names. This one is named El Garces, and that's named after a guy. Father Garces was a Franciscan, and he traveled out here with the De Anza expedition in the 1700s. He was unique among the Spanish because the local Indians loved him. They weren't real high on the Spanish, but they really liked Father Garces. He would camp with them, he would eat with them, tell them stories, listen to their stories. He befriended them. They showed him the Mojave Road, which is a path that they laid out, and it runs from just south of Laughlin all the way to Barstow. Back in the day, when they showed it to Father Garces, it went all the way to the Pacific Ocean. And he went right along with them. He performed the first baptism in the state of California. They loved him. Unfortunately, he ended up down at Fort Yuma, down south of here. And the Indians attacked Fort Yuma, and they were justified in doing that because the Spanish had turned their herd animals out onto the Spanish farm, or the Indian farmland, threatening them with starvation. So they attacked the fort, and they were very good at it. They won. They killed everybody. They killed Father Garces, and he was collateral damage. He wasn't a target. They felt bad about that, and they knew that it was his custom to be buried. It was their custom to cremate, but they knew that he wanted to be buried, so out of respect, they did that for him. You can go to Yuma and see his gravesite, but the locals really liked him. You can see the footprint of 3 horseshoe counters. The girls, we counted the stools in here one time, and I think there's around 100. They had 30 minutes to feed a lunch stop like this, 30 minutes. But they had a great system. They would, about an hour out, the conductor would go through the train and give you a choice between 2 entrees. He would telegraph that information down to the next Harvey meal stop, so they knew how much of what to prepare. When you came in, your place was set. All the china was there, the silver, ice water, a salad, a little fruit dish. Everything was there. The Harvey girl would come along and ask you what your entree was, and what are you going to have to drink? Behind the Harvey girl, there was a drink girl. The drink girl never talked to you. She never asked you anything. But she knew magically what you were going to have to drink. And the way they did that was the Harvey girl and the drink girl had a code based on the position of the saucer relative to the coffee cup, or to the cup. And that told the drink girl what you were going to have to drink. So it was kind of cool. I've read accounts of the El Garces and Needles where they said you couldn't walk through the lobby, there were so many people. These places were magnets for the social life of these very small towns. There used to be a sidebar in the local paper, who's staying at the El Garces this week? Did I mention that 100,000 young women came west?
Yeah.
Okay, and about 50,000 of them stayed. We obviously don't know all of their stories. One of them we do know, and they came for different reasons. Some of them came financial desperation. Some of them came just for the sheer adventure of being able to come this far west and be surrounded by a safe environment. This one was born in Georgia around 1900. In her late teens, early 20s, she got married. She became pregnant, and her husband was killed in an accident. She had no future. She had a brother in Kansas City. She drove to Kansas City. The trip was delayed in Little Rock, where she gave birth to a boy. She went to Kansas City, moved in with her brother, who was single. And now, here's my sister and an infant. Hooray. So, she saw an ad in the paper for the Harvey Company, and she fit all the criteria. She was now single. She couldn't take the baby, but she applied. She was interviewed, she was accepted, she was trained, 30 days of training to be a waitress. Then you have to sign a contract. The shortest contract was 6 months, because they didn't want to train you and have you go to work for somebody else. Then they told you where you were going. She was assigned to Needles. Among the Harvey Girls at Needles at that time, they said, when you got here, you either loved it and stayed, or you hated it and applied for a transfer. And we're pretty sure that would depend on which month of the year it was that you got here. You step off a train here in July and you go, oh, no. Yeah, she stayed. She worked out a contract, plus a little bit more. She got married, established a home, and then sent for the boy. That was my grandmother, and the little boy was my dad.
On the accent, the big and the sad.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this video, and these are just a few of the stories that we were lucky to hear from a grandson of one of the Harvey Girls. And also, you saw in the very beginning, we had a little clip of a movie that Judy Garland was in, titled The Harvey Girls. Now,
I really never knew anything about it. It was fascinating that, you know, all this was going on, and we've never heard about it.
No.
And if we did, we forgot.
Right.
So,
and I think we've told a couple people about it, and they said, oh yeah, I heard something about it.
yeah.
But it's a piece of Americana, I think, and I was just so happy. And we were very lucky to speak
Yes.
with Mike Thornton of Needles, California, who's a grandson of one of the Harvey Girls.
Yep.
So, yeah, if you want any more information, be sure to look up the Needles Museum in Needles, California, and
Yeah, go to it. It was They had a lot of good stuff. It also was the home of Charles Schultz, and that's where he was drawing Peanuts and his
Spike,
his cousin.
the dog.
Yeah.
The dog, Spike.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got a big story on him there.
There's a lot of really good information there on all kinds of things from that area.
Yeah.
Apparently, also, this was in the movie The Grapes of Wrath when they came across a bridge, and I guess there was an encampment there. That's where that was.
Right.
So there's information about that also.
A lot of rich
Lots
history
of
in that area.
history.
And, you know, a lot of things. The Grapes of Wrath, I mean, that's an old film. I saw it when I was in high school. I'd like to see it again after seeing all they've got a lot of information about it, pictures, and so anyway,
But
lot of fun.
you know, you need to get out and look, and don't just go to the places that you know, that everybody goes to.
Not tourist traps.
Yeah, that's right. You find out more interesting things.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yep.
Well, we hope you enjoyed it. If you're interested in more information, be sure to contact, look up online. In fact, they have a great Facebook grouping on there for the Needles Museum, and it talks about a lot of these things, and they have photographs there too. So anyway, thanks for watching. We appreciate all our subscribers, and thank you very much.
Subscribe and thumbs up.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.